Hello everyone, in this video I'll be translating and summarizing the latest Urdu broadcast by Shahbaz Gill to make it accessible for our English-speaking audience. Let's go through the key developments and insights in Shahbaz Gill's words. First of all, the countdown is on. 79 days to go, 89 days remaining for the retirement of Field Marshal Asim Munir and the arrival of the new army chief in the country. Among today's top news, India and the US have reconciled, their ties have been revived, and both countries are again praising each other. The reason for this sudden shift is the efforts of the Indian Army Chief. Yes, you heard that right. It's because of the Indian Army Chief that today, once again, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump, who were earlier at odds, have come together. A few weeks ago, it seemed like Trump would tear India apart. First, he imposed a 50% tariff on India, then threatened to make it 100%, and warned that if India continued to buy oil from Russia, he'd punish them severely. He also criticized India's growing ties with China, claiming that if these relations continued, he would intervene. The threats were so severe that India started to feel the pressure. The whole world was watching as India, which had been constantly seeking Trump's favor, now found itself in a precarious situation. This was especially concerning for India, as a large portion of their economy and exports, particularly in IT, relied heavily on the US. Companies like Apple and other global tech giants were keeping a close eye on the situation. Just when it seemed like Trump's pressure would break India, the Indian Army Chief worked his magic and relations were normalized once again. You might be thinking, India has a functioning democracy, so how could their Army Chief play such a pivotal role? The Indian Army Chief is not like our Army Chief. He doesn't have the freedom to have foreign meetings or expand influence. So, how did the Indian Army Chief achieve this? Let me explain. The situation in India was similar to Pakistan's. Imran Khan had tried balancing relations with China, Russia and the US, aiming to keep Pakistan's relationships with all three intact. However, as things unfolded, Pakistan's Army Chief, General Bajwa, played a key role. He went so far as to pressurize Imran Khan, telling him that a visit to Russia was crucial for defense deals, wheat and oil. Before going, Imran Khan consulted all stakeholders, including military officials, Foreign Office, former foreign secretaries, ministers and journalists. They all agreed that he should go to Russia. But as soon as Imran Khan landed in Russia, General Bajwa reportedly told the US, "I can't do it," but he went, "Now you deal with it." Similarly, in India, when President Trump tried to impose tariffs and pressure India, the Indian Prime Minister responded by strengthening relations with China and Russia. In fact, Modi visited China, a country he hadn't visited in years, and embraced the Chinese president. Trump reacted angrily on Twitter. Now, here's the key difference. If General Bajwa had been in India's position, Modi's government would have fallen by now. General Bajwa would have toppled Modi's regime, buying over members of the opposition parties, turning everything upside down. Cases would have been fabricated, even creating scandals about Modi's personal life. But since India didn't have a General Bajwa, they were able to withstand Trump's threats and didn't bow down. Instead, India strengthened its position internationally, maintained its ties with China, and refreshed its relationship with Russia. Trump saw that India was not backing down, and in response began praising Modi. Trump's tweets began to reflect a cordial relationship, calling Modi his best friend. On the other hand, Modi's response was much more formal, offering no reciprocal warmth. He thanked Trump, but didn't use words like friendship or best friend in his tweet. This contrast in tone shows the difference between the two leaders. This highlights the importance of having a strong military leader. Sometimes, the absence of such a figure can also be a blessing, as India is now standing firm in the international arena without bending to external pressure. Their democracy is thriving, and their foreign policy stance has been strengthened without anyone blackmailing them. Now, moving on to the next important news. The Chief Justice of the Islamabad High Court made a key ruling today, and we'll talk about that shortly. But first, your Prime Minister, Mr. Shahbaz Sharif, has also been sent by our Army Chief to Qatar. Yes, everyone knows he went to Qatar, but what you may not know is that our Army Chief sent him with instructions to assure Qatar about the attack Israel launched on Gaza. Remember, just a few months ago, we were also facing significant challenges, and at that time, Qatar didn't step in to support us. But since Qatar is a brotherly Islamic country, it's only right to show solidarity. I thought about it. And when the US attacked Pakistan to target Osama bin Laden, did anyone come to us? I don't recall anyone coming. But anyway, as a brotherly Islamic country, we should offer support to Qatar, though I think our Prime Minister went there to seek something more. 2 years ago, Field Marshal requested $25 billion from Qatar, but nothing came of it. Now he's sending the Prime Minister to Qatar again, but this time the approach seems different. He's going not just to offer condolences, but perhaps to ask for financial aid. I believe he went there to ask for help, though the official narrative is one of solidarity. This is a new show of theatrics. We are rushing to Qatar to express support for Israel's attacks on them, even though we don't allow the Palestinian flag to fly in our own country. Finally, consider this. In Islamabad, the counter-terrorism department, which includes both police and military personnel working together, has performed an appalling act. They kidnapped an Afghan trader and demanded a ransom, threatening to charge him with terrorism unless he paid. After receiving the ransom, they released him. Yes, you heard that right. In a country where the counter-terrorism department is responsible for combating terrorism, this type of behavior is beyond shocking. It damages the credibility of the country's security initiatives. If this is happening within Islamabad, what does the world think of our counter-terrorism efforts? How can anyone respect a country whose law enforcement is involved in such practices? The CTD officials who were involved were suspended, but mark my words, these officers will be promoted in no time. As the saying goes in Punjabi, the worse you are, the higher you rise. These 5 officers will soon be given prestigious positions because those in power know how to use people like them to make money. Let's move on to the next piece of news. As I mentioned earlier, today the Islamabad High Court witnessed a day that no one had imagined before. A case was being heard in the Islamabad High Court today. The case was regarding the removal of the name of Moeed Balok from the exit control list. The lawyer was Dogar-Mazari, along with her husband Hadi and Surfaraz Dogar. Yes, Justice Surfaraz Dogar. The same one who was number 15 on the Lahore High Court bench and was unlawfully brought to the Islamabad High Court and made Chief Justice as a result of the 26th Constitutional Amendment. This was done forcibly so that no other judge could become Chief Justice of Islamabad High Court. Even now, 5 to 6 judges of the Islamabad High Court are standing against him because of his unconstitutional actions to become Chief Justice. When this case began today, the judge was furious. He told Dogar-Mazari that you are out in the press saying that there is a dictator sitting in the country, and you are also pointing fingers at me saying that I am the dictator. So why don't we start contempt of court proceedings against you? She replied that if you want to start contempt of court proceedings, you are absolutely entitled to do so, but I also have the right to freedom of speech, which is my constitutional right. The comment I made was in my personal life, not during my practice in court. So, my client, Moeed Balok, should not be affected by it. You are welcome to file a contempt of court case if you wish, and I will face it. The judge then addressed Hadi, the male lawyer standing with Dogar-Mazari, saying, "Get her under control. One day I will catch her, and you'll see what happens." It wasn't clear whether he meant catching her physically or legally, but he was threatening a female lawyer presenting her case. He said it in front of a male lawyer who was standing by her side. "Get her under control. One day I will catch her, and you will find out." These words came from the bench of the court today. The bar remained silent about it, but the world was shocked. A Chief Justice of a High Court was threatening a female lawyer in such a way. This situation today was quite shocking. The language he used was inappropriate and certainly not a reflection of the dignity of a judge, let alone a Chief Justice. As I told you, the lawyers remained silent unless something extreme happens, but today the situation was indeed surprising. The words spoken were inexcusable, and no Chief Justice should ever speak like that. But this is the situation we find ourselves in under the leadership of Chaudhry Nizamuddin, and the consequences of undermining men will be felt by the entire nation. This is exactly what is happening. Next, I bring you news from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The flour mills in the province, which grind wheat into flour, have been shut down by 83%. Yes, 83% of the mills that process wheat into flour have been closed. The reason for this is that wheat supplies from Punjab have stopped. As a result, the price of flour has increased by 100%. This is not something we are saying, but the Mill Owners Association has stated this in a press release. They warned that if wheat supplies from Punjab are not restored, there will be a severe shortage of flour in Peshawar and the surrounding regions. Dawn News reported this. It's a serious situation. While the country is experiencing flooding at one end, on the other, we are facing a flour shortage. You must be aware that Khyber Pakhtunkhwa was the first to experience severe flooding, and the situation there is even worse. The government had no real options to prepare for it, unlike Punjab, where India had given early warnings. The floodwaters came, sweeping away everything. The wheat lying in government storage in Kanewal was submerged in water and left to rot. Nothing was done for 15 days before the floods even reached the region. In the meantime, there is a wheat shortage, and the government has taken no action to resolve it. Those responsible for the situation should be held accountable, but I doubt any action will be taken. Moving on to the next piece of news from the past. Azad Syed has reported a story about the Army public school attack in Peshawar, where children were martyred in one of the most tragic events in Pakistan's history. While the tragedy was unfolding, General Raheel Sharif was busy transferring hundreds of acres of land into his name. You might recall banners thanking Raheel Sharif for his services, but here is something you may not know. Raheel Sharif transferred large plots of land in Lahore, close to DHA, and these lands were originally designated for agricultural use. However, he had the designation changed to allow residential colonies to be built on them. The total value of this land exceeds 50 billion rupees. The irony is that while this tragedy was happening, Raheel Sharif was busy consolidating his own wealth with no regard for the ongoing disaster. The land in question is now being turned into residential areas, and you might see farmhouses built on it soon. While people were grieving and in pain, it appears that some were taking advantage of the situation. The next piece of news concerns the disrespecting of judicial decisions. A constitutional bench of the Supreme Court allowed military courts to pass sentences on civilians, an unconstitutional act. This decision was later followed by a directive to the government to legislate so that those sentenced could appeal in civilian courts. However, more than 150 days have passed, and the government has not taken any action on this, nor has the certified copy of the military court's decision been provided to the accused. Today, when Hassan Khan Niazi, the brave son of Nurain Khanam, challenged his sentence in the Lahore High Court, the court pointed out that he had not been provided a certified copy of the verdict. This shows how military courts are operating like a lawless system with no accountability. Even after months of sentences being handed down, no copies of decisions have been given to the accused, so they cannot challenge them. It is a very concerning situation where people are held in military custody without any legal justification, with no official orders from the court. People are being punished based on military orders rather than legal decisions, and the government is doing nothing to resolve this. That wraps up our translation of Shahbaz Gill's video. I hope this English version helped you understand his message better. Please like, share and subscribe to Awami Lens to help our community grow. Don't forget to leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of this effort.